So, it's time to go to Belgium and to the Ardennes region to visit one of the legendary racetracks in the world, Spa-Francorchamps. With a track length of over 7 kilometers, it's one of the longest Grand Prix tracks we have to drive on. And it's a roller coaster ride with an over 100 meters altitude difference from the lowest point to the very highest point on the track. Let's have a look at some of the details we have to know about when we drive here. Start-finish straight. Approaching corner number 1 called La Source. We position the car on the left-hand side and we use the reference markers, 50-meter sign and much more the 100-meter sign as a rough indication for our braking point for turn number 1. It's a very slow corner. It's really important that we hold the nose down on the brakes, making sure we get to rotate the car at the apex point. On the exit, roll onto the throttle gently, making sure we get that traction down, and then aiming for turn 2. The right side mirror almost scratches the wall here on the approach for the very, very famous Eau Rouge. Going into Eau Rouge, I normally use this red Marshall post, flag post, as a reference. I want to turn in towards Eau Rouge just ahead of that, and we can see our professional driver is doing just the same. Eyes to the apex on the left-hand side, and we can see the massive compression taking us up Eau Rouge, and we really want to utilize that also to turn the car and get it pointed towards the right up the hill. In this case, we're approaching with over 220 kph, and due to the fact that we are on a high downforce 911 GT3 RS, it's enough just to lift the throttle in this case a little bit. With other cars with not so much downforce, it's a massive braking going into the Eau Rouge. Let's have a look, shall we? In we go, up the hill, and making sure also here that we are not violating the track limits. In this case, perfectly executed. We can see the right-hand side wheels are still perfectly on track, and we can see the driver is able to apply full throttle already here, making sure the car is nice and stable in this section called Radio. It's really important to get this exit right, because from now on it goes uphill, the so-called camel straight. Uphill and a long stretch, climbing up to Le Combe, a very technical section. We brake, of course, on the left-hand side, making sure we keep the car nice and straight. We can apply quite a lot of braking pressure. We can see here we are slowing down with almost 1.4 Gs in this area. Turning it in. Leaning a little bit on the curbs in this case, setting it up here also beautifully, and now sacrificing the exit on this corner, making sure that we have a good run for the next right-hander. So we have to anticipate what line we need to take to get a good exit on that next corner, and we do that by sacrificing the corner we are in. So not all the way to the outside, but here, approaching from the left over the curb, utilizing the exit, going down to the next corner, which we call Brussels. So for me, a good reference point for braking is round about the beginning of the curb. It can vary in different cars and of course with varying track conditions. Here today, it's nice and dry, and in Brussels, we will be able to take this corner as a V-line. V-line means, again, we have 2 apex points. In this case, we are just kissing the first apex point, carrying the car a little bit to the outside, coming back for the second apex point, perfectly executed in this case by our driver here. And then it's all about setting it up for Radio, making sure we are all the way on the right-hand side here, and then also turning in a little bit early. Why? Because the track falls off. We're going downhill, and the car is a little bit more lazy turning in, so we need to be early and maybe a little bit on the brakes, gently turning it in. Stabilizing it with throttle, utilizing the track on the exit, and then following along the white line to the very, very fast double left-hander Pouhon. Track positioning, of course, from the outside on the right, and we can see here hard on the brakes, and we're going to brake into the corner, coming off the brakes as we turn the car in towards the first apex. Also here, the car has a clear tendency of understeering due to the fact that, of course, the track is going downhill. Very important corner. Here we set it up for the second fast left-hand corner, kissing the curb on the outside, and already here we can utilize that high downforce and stability in the GT3 RS Our driver here fully on the throttle already here, utilizing a little bit of curb, not too much though, making sure the car is stable, and then running down to the next section called Piff Puff. A good reference point for braking, plus minus, is again our gantry here, which we are driving underneath on the brakes, and we can carry some speed into the first right-hand corner, leaning on the inside curb, and it's not an apex point, it's more like an apex line. So we stick it to the inside and we hold the inside line to be on the right side on the approach for the next left-hander. So setting it up for the left-hander, again leaning on the curb and being careful at the exit here, as the curb is very aggressive. You can see how rough it is, and if we have an unstable car there, over-rotating, we have to be careful because the wall is rather close on the outside. Taking it from one side to the other, approaching down towards Stavelot, downhill section, setting it up. This corner is extremely important. First of all, it's also the lowest point on the track, so from now on it's an uphill climb, and we need to get a good run, despite 525 horses in this case, pushing in the back. We need to get a good run in any car. So let's see how it's done. Touching beautifully the curb on the inside, kiss, and then letting it run to the outside, sticking on the outside line for a little bit. My focus point right here is to try to come over back onto the right-hand side of the track where we have this metal gantry. This is the turning point for the section leading into the very famous Blanchimont corner, and we can see our pro driver is doing the same. Here on the exit though, we can see he is running very wide, utilizing a lot of the painted green surface here. All right, it's dry conditions, we can do that in this case, but in terms of wet conditions, we have to be careful. Every painted surface is of course very slippery. So that's one thing, and also track limits. I think we were very much on the limit here in terms of not violating the track limits. What's important now is that Blanchimont, which is one of the fastest corners on the track, we can see here we are 230 kph. We have to really be able to precisely hug the inside, not touching the inside curb. It's high, it will disturb the balance. But on the other side, the banking is on the very inside. So if we are pushed wide on the entry, we won't be able to utilize that banking. So we need to be precise at high speed. Let's see how he does it. Beautifully down in the apex, and you can see it on the apex, on the exit. No track limit violation, able to keep two wheels still on the track. Beautifully done. If you should have any kind of instabilities here, it's also important, rather use this runoff space instead of forcing the car back on the track, because we again do have that unpleasant wall on the inside. So we're almost back at start and finish, but before we are there, we need to slow it down for the bus stop chicane. And we can see it slightly on our video here, bumpy braking section. So we need to get it right and straight. Braking, slowing it down, and the bus stop chicane is an uphill climb throughout the first right-hander. We utilize that to dig the nose in, to turn the car around, and importantly, to set it up on this right-hand side to get a good run and an approach for the last corner, which leads us onto the start-finish straight. So hug the inside, turn the car around, gentle throttle application, open the steering, track limits, and off we go. Wow. 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 What a ride. I mean, a GT3 RS or any Porsche GT car on a track like this is an absolute blast. You guys can look forward to it. See you there.